In our next lesson, starting on page 7, so we're going to be on pages 7 and 8 for this lesson, we're talking about complementary and supplementary angles. So these are two new vocabulary terms. Two angles are complementary if the sum of their measures is 90 degrees. If you notice in this model, these two angles, 1 and 2, are actually adjacent because they share a vertex and they share a common side. Complementary angles do not necessarily need to be adjacent. They don't have to be next to each other. So while this is an example, we could actually separate angles 1 and angle 2, and they would still actually be complementary as long as their angles add to give you 90 degrees. An easy way that I remember complementary starts off C-O-M-P-L, and that's usually how I'll shorten complementary. What you can do is actually close up the C, and if you notice, you kind of have the number 9 followed by a 0. So complementary reminds you that it's 90 degrees. The other new vocab term for today is supplementary. In supplementary, the sum of the measures is 180. So again, here you have what looks like actually a linear pair, which we've already talked about, but you could actually pull and separate angle 3, and then you could separate angle 4, and they would also be supplementary. So supplementaries and complementaries can be separate. Supplementaries will have the relationship that blank plus blank equals 180 degrees. Similarly, supplementary I'll typically shorten, and you'll see me do this in the notes, S-U-P-P-L. If you take the S, you can actually close it up, and it kind of reminds you, reminiscent somewhat, of the number 8. Close up the U, and then I just put a 1 out front, and supplementary reminds me of the 180. So what we'll do here is we'll take a look at a couple angles. We're going to classify them as complementary, supplementary, or neither. So if I look at 1 and 2, together they form a line, and we know that a line is 180 degrees. Because of that, we can call these two supplementary. If I look at these two angles, they're separated, but if I do 60 plus 30, I actually get 90, which tells me that these two angles are complementary. If I look at this one, it doesn't quite look like a line, but I can't always trust my eyeballs, but what I can do is actually add together the two measurements. If I add them, I get 175 degrees. Well, that is neither complementary nor supplementary, so we'll put neither. In the next one, I have 75 and 15, so again, I'll just add those together. And I actually get 90, so these two are complementary. So what happens is, if we have angles here, which are listed in the next section, we can actually calculate the complement and the supplement. Remember, complementary angles have to add up to be 90, and supplementary have to add up to be 180. So to get the complement of an angle, we'll just take 90 and take away the given angle. So the complement of 42 is 48 degrees. Now, to do the supplement, since they have to add to 180, we'll do 180 minus the 42, and that's going to give us 138 degrees. Same thing down here with 147. The only problem is if I start off with 90 and I take that away, is there another angle that could measure up to 147 and actually add up to be 90? It's not possible. So there is no complement, so there is none. The supplement we can find by doing 180 minus the 147, and that's going to give us 33 degrees. So some angles might not have a complement, but they will usually typically have a supplement. 28, so we'll take 90, subtract the 28, and we're going to get 62 degrees. For our supplement, we'll take 180, subtract the 28, and we're going to get 152 degrees. On the next page, we are going to use writing our actual equations here today. So the first thing that I want you to look at is for some key words. In the first one, it says the angles are complementary, and we can actually see in the picture there's a right angle mark here. That tells me, since they're complementary, that my setup is blank plus blank equals 90. So all I'm going to do is plug in the two angles. The first one's 2x, the other one's 28. So subtract your 28, and you get 2x equals 62. Divide through by 2, x equals 31 degrees. In our next example, the two angles are Supplementary. Supplementary, remember, adds up to be 180. So our setup will be blank plus blank equals 180. So we have 123 and we have 3x. So we'll subtract the 123. We're going to get 3x equals, we're going to have 57, divide through by 3, and x is going to equal 19 degrees. In this one, we're solving for the value of x. There's two things I can notice. If this side is 90 degrees, that also means this side is 90 degrees because 90 plus 90 equals 180, which is the whole thing. So if I do that, I could actually cover up this part of the picture and know that these two angles are complementary. So x plus x equals 90. Combine like terms, x plus x is 2x equals 90. Divide through by 2, and x equals 45 degrees. In this one, notice they form a straight line, so they're supplementary or a linear pair. The setup is the same because they still both add to be 180. So 116 plus 8x, subtract the 116, 8x equals 24. Oh, excuse me, oh my goodness, 64. Divide through by 8, and x equals 8 degrees then.